And I think that's one thing that people don't realize is STRs are not passive. Oh, I had about 7 different systems duct taped and bubble gummed together, and it worked great for me. And so I had enough of my host friends keep asking me and asking me for it. I said, they're like, can't you just create it? What you're doing? And I was like, I've never developed software before, but sure. And so that is how I started Simply Host.
Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. John, and I am so excited to spend some time with you today. Now, before we jump into this episode, I want to share a quote with you that I recently read. And it says, if you realize how powerful your thoughts are, you would never have a negative thought. Boy, oh boy, I couldn't agree more. Those beautiful words come to us from Peace Pilgrim. Now, in this episode, I'm sitting down with the founder of Simply Host, a brand new property management software that Beth developed from her own messy middle. I cannot wait for you to meet her. So without further ado, let's jump in. So today we are joined by Beth Turner, and we are talking about the messy middle, such a great topic that so many women are dealing with. But Beth, first of all, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So let's start off and share with our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I started out accidentally in STRs. I bought a condo down in Arizona and then realized I don't live here. What do I do the rest of the time with it? And so I became an accidental STR owner at that time. I worked around a couple different areas. I still had a full-time job as well. I did enjoy it, but the things that I didn't enjoy was like being in meetings every day. I enjoyed the actual work. It was very challenging in a good way, and it made my brain work, which was awesome. But didn't really want to have the scheduled meetings all the time. And so I then took a little break from real estate, kept my STRs. I had a couple long-term rentals, and then decided to jump into STRs again. And I bought a couple more. And this is where the messy middle comes in. And so I was running those. I had about 7 different systems duct taped and bubble gummed together, and it worked great for me. Maybe one would go down and I'd figure out where it was. I'm slightly techie. And then I had a bunch of friends say, hey, can you get your system? Can you put it just like mine and I can have your system? And I was like, oh, that's really messy, really messy middle. And so I had enough of my host friends keep asking me and asking me for it. I said, they're like, can't you just create it? What you're doing? And I was like, I've never developed software before, but sure, let's give it a try. And so that is how I started Simply Host. It's been a 2-year journey of figuring out how software development works. And I'm a non-technical founder, so I had to hire a team and some wonderful developers. And yeah, and that's kind of my messy middle went really long.
Yeah.
I went through multiple journeys to get there.
Amazing. Amazing. So let's go back to the moment you realized, okay, things are feeling very messy and disjointed.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what things look like behind the scenes for you during that time.
Absolutely. So for example, when we talk about those 7 different systems, I would have a guest send me a text message on my texting system, and they would say, oh, hey, can I check out early? Well, the calendar is in that texting system. So then I'd have to go back to my PMS and figure out, okay, all right, where are they? Oh, yep, we can or we can't. Then I have to go back into my texting system and send them a message, say, yeah, great, sounds good. And so all of those pieces, I think one of the things is that I also had some remote rentals. So also managing, like, did my cleaners show up? Did they not? You know, you're using Ring cameras. You don't know until they're really done. Are they done? And so all of those different pieces really ebbed and flowed. Sometimes they would work great and it was wonderful. And then other times it was like, holy cow, where are all the pieces and where are all the people? And so that was really when I started to say, all right, I got to try to get a system together for myself. And so that's when I started mishmashing them together of like when, for example, we also put like welcome note baskets. And I would get a message from my cleaner and she would say, hey, what's the message supposed to be for today? I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't remember who's coming today in this one property. Shoot. So I'd have to log in, grab it, go read their conversation, and then put that in. So those are like the messy pieces of when we want to really shine as hosts, we have to go that extra mile. And that extra mile does take us extra to do. And so how do we make sure that we do that without burning ourselves out. Because
Mhm.
that happens so quickly when we're trying to do everything, whether it comes from cleaning coordination to something breaks to a guest says, hey, I want to adjust this. Can I bring my dog? All those different layers become really messy when you don't have a system. Or, for example, we had a hot tub at one of our properties. If it didn't work for a night, you had to almost think about, I am running a business. I got to try to put a policy in place so I don't stress out every time something like this happens.
Yeah.
And so those were really the messy middles that I was in for probably 2 or 3 years of managing multiple rentals, trying to help other people manage theirs. I wasn't a co-host, but I was having friends that were like, hey, how do we do this? How do we do
Mhm.
that?
Mhm.
So it was really messy. And I think that's one thing that people don't realize is STRs are not passive.
Oh, I tell you what, I couldn't agree more. I feel like my blood pressure goes up when I see somebody say
Yeah.
passive income,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
operate short-term rentals. I'm like, this is exactly the opposite of
Correct.
passive income. Now, if you own, we all know that owning a short-term rental and operating a short-term rental are two different things. So
Correct.
you can be an owner of a
Yes.
short-term rental and be a passive investor when you have a property manager,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
But if we are operating our short-term rentals, it is
Yeah.
anything but passive.
It
And
really is. And you hear a lot of people, you're right. Like I'll say, you see some gurus, you see some people online and they're like, oh, supplement your income with this this stream. And I'm going, oh
right.
golly. Like most of, I think a lot of us that are like 9 and under, 4 and under property, somewhere in those streams, it's really tough for us to justify a property manager, right?
Mhm,
Because that does take, depending on anywhere from 10 to 20, 25% of that
mhm.
income. And especially when we are not operating at, the nines, the tens, or we still have full-time jobs, that extra income, all that percentage really matters to us. And so we try to figure out how do we operate them ourselves. And I think one thing that I would always suggest to every SDR owner is operate for a little bit yourself. So at least when a property manager comes back to you and says, hey, XYZ, how do you want us to handle this? You at least have a feel for it.
Mm,
It's a little tougher when you just buy and say, hand it over and say, hey, great, have fun with that.
yeah,
And then they come back and they say, hey, the hot tub broke. What do you want us to do?
right, right. Well, it's interesting because for so many folks who are perhaps investing early stage where they've
Yeah.
got 1 property, 2, 3, like you, they still have a full-time job. I was the exact same way. I had a full-time job when I started.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you started really experiencing that messy metal, first of all,
Yeah.
what did you do in your previous W-2?
So I was working for human healthcare in like their electronic medical record system. So I was already a little techie-ish, but I
Okay.
wasn't like coding. Like, don't ask me to code anything. I'll break everything.
Right, right, right.
uh, but I was kind of the connector between the system and doctors and nurses. So I was kind of used to being that bridge across
Mhm,
like having multiple things and needing to bring them together.
mhm.
And also the other thing was I was traveling 90% of the time. So I would leave every
Wow,
Sunday and come back every Thursday. And
wow.
so it was a lot to handle, especially like that. I was also bought into like SDRs are passive. And I got into my first one and
Mhm.
I was like, guess they're messaging me all night. And I
Yeah,
don't have, and I'm copying and pasting, or I'm trying to remember what did I say the last guest? It was a good message.
yeah.
So I was doing that at the beginning. It was really difficult to try to like really messy. It wasn't even the middle wasn't just as messy as even the beginning was messier.
Sure. And so when you were working full time,
Yeah.
how did you balance all of the stuff?
Not well. I think is what it comes down to, right? Like the word balance, I think is very elusive.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
How did
it
you
was one of those.
manage?
Yes, yeah. How did you manage well? I mean, the definitely made a lot of mistakes at the beginning, right? Like, you would get a message and you feel that anxiety, right, of that message coming through, and you would be in a meeting, you would be on a conference call, whatever it might be, and you'd be like, okay, my super host status if I don't respond to this in the next 15 minutes, those
Right.
types of things, and so it was then managing more my anxiety and then setting those guardrails
Mm,
for myself than it was like actually managing the guest messaging, those type of pieces. So it was saying, all right, I know that when a guest sends this message, all these questions come in my head. Oh my gosh. Or I get also really excited of like, hey, we got a new reservation. But I also know that there's that other side of being a host where, you have to watch out for parties. You have to watch out for people, coming in and doing those types of things. And so how do you also then get excited about a reservation and make sure that you're not going to cause any problems with that reservation as well?
yeah.
So it was more of how do I figure out how to manage my anxiety during those moments and figuring out, can I leverage systems to do that?
Mhm.
As well as like I said, set some guardrails around myself of like, hey, if I'm out to dinner and somebody sends me a message, It's okay. I can look at it real quick, manage the urgency of the message, right? And be like, oh, they want to know if they can bring a pet for a reservation in 2 months. I don't
Right.
need to respond that instantly. I
Yeah.
can finish my dinner with my friends and family and respond.
Yeah. So let's dig in a little bit to the management of that anxiety. You started determining, hey, what systems can I
Yeah.
put in place to relieve some of this anxiety before you started developing those systems or started, putting them pieced together?
Yeah.
Did you have any special tricks that you found to be super helpful when you're looking to manage anxiety?
Yeah, a lot of I mean, it sounds so almost all the tricks are simple, they're not easy, right? Like,
Mhm.
one of the big is taking a dang breath, right? Like,
That-
you feel that rising and you know that you're no longer in a good mental space to make good choices.
Mhm.
And even if you do make good choices, great, but like you're really rolling the dice on that choice when you're in
Mhm.
that state. So one of those is taking that deep breath and saying, okay, evaluating the situation for what it is. The other thing that is I'm not a great advocate for myself. So
Mm.
like for example, when it came to like asking for raises, for jobs, those types of things, I'm really hard advocating for myself, but I advocate and I'll try to watch my cussing. Sometimes I get a little cussy.
Ah.
I advocate like hell for my friends and family, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm then put myself of like, hey, if I'm in this situation, but it is not me as an owner, right? It's my mom that owns this property, or it's my friend that owns this property. That anxiety for me calms me because then it takes my emotion out of it and says, all
Mhm.
right, I'm here to represent. And it helps me come in that more, put that hat on as a real host, not just like, oh my gosh, something's happening in my house. What am I gonna do?
Right.
And so it also gives me that of I can come from a much calmer space when it's not layering on my emotions of it. And instead
Mhm.
it's all right, I can separate myself from that scenario by taking that deep breath and saying, okay, or you have some mentors, right? So like I love Russell Branson. What would Russell Branson do, right? Like
Mhm.
taking that step back, because when we get lost in that emotion, that is where we like said we're really rolling the dice at that point.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things I did. A lot of okay, pause, take a breath, because we all been in those situations where it feels like the world is falling down,
Yep.
right? And the other thing is also realizing that like this will the one of the questions that I ask when it comes to like prioritizing how urgent, how chaos, and how important this decision is will this matter in a year, right? Like,
Yeah.
will this matter in a year? Am I going to remember this in a year and say, oh, you remember when that gas snuck in a cat?
Right.
Like,
Right.
am I gonna remember that in a year? Probably not.
Yeah.
And so when I first see that cat on the camera and that anxiety kicks in, it's like,
Mm.
will this
Yeah.
matter in a year? No. Okay, just handle it calmly.
Yeah. Such great advice. And I also think, you called out the fact that you may not advocate for yourself in the best way every time, but advocating for other
Yeah.
people. I think that that is so true. One of the things that I think is so important is that we learn as business owners to separate ourselves from the
Yeah.
business. So even with me, I am not so great at knowing how to market myself. But if I look at other people, I'm like, oh, they should do X, Y, and Z. And it
Yeah.
comes like that. Right.
Yes.
And so I totally understand sometimes when you're looking at yourself in one light, it can become stalling
Yes.
because we want to be perfect. At least I do.
Oh
I'm
God.
like,
Yes. I think
we
we're perfectionists as women. I think it's ingrained in us.
Yes, yes. And that's something that I have dealt with for years
Yeah.
is, progress over perfection is a sign I have behind me. And it's
Yeah.
for me so important and it's such a key reminder. I think it's so important in the day-to-day of our short-term rental that we separate ourselves from our properties,
Yes.
right?
100%. 100%. And I think one thing that's very different that I think we forget about when we start off with these small things, we are running a business, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot, like just that mental shift helps in all of those scenarios. But it took me a long, right? You hear side hustle, you hear like, oh, I'm just bringing in some extra income. Like when you really say, like, I'm running a business, whether that's like going in online and setting up an LLC for it, whether that is just shifting your brain into that mindset, but knowing that you are running a business and a service and not just like, oh, I'm doing a little extra thing on the side, that also helps with that mind shift because you're right. Like the first one that I did, everything was so emotional and everything was a direct reflect of me at that point rather than, hey, this is the business. Things happen. How do we just move through those?
Mhm.
That separation is really what helps us grow and then make better choices.
Mhm.
Because when we come down to the point to finally, if we ever need a team, whether that is cleaners, whether that's property managers, whatever that is too, it helps us make those better decisions too,
Yeah.
because we're not just, hey, hiring a friend, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm actually running a business and I need to be able to make sure that X, Y, and Z happens. It's like holding our cleaners accountable to like, here is the checklist. I need you to do the checklist, right? Like
Yes.
when we operate from a business standpoint and say, hey, I am employing this person for this time and here are my requirements, it's also easier for me to hold those requirements rather than just like, would you please just make sure that you do this one thing?
Yes. Absolutely. Preach it, girl. I feel like so often because sometimes it's difficult to separate ourselves from our property or properties or operations.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see women avoiding having those tough
Oh
conversations
God,
with
yes.
their cleaners because they're afraid
Yep.
that they're going to lose them.
Yes.
They're afraid they're
Yes.
going to quit.
Oh,
What?
scarcity mindset is serious, serious
Yeah.
business. And
Yeah.
and the one thing that I think that we all have to really take in is that, when we hear like many fish in the sea, all those types of things, there is always going to be somebody that's better, that's smarter, that's all in all of our roles, right?
Yep.
Like even for me, right? Like there's plenty of SDR owners that are way above me and way in those. There's plenty of software development founders that have way different products and are way better than me in certain areas. And so when I think of when I'm going to lose a person because we establish those things, there's always going to be somebody behind there. There's always going
Mhm.
to be, yes, it's going to be a journey and all those pieces, but it's kind of like when you go back to even going the opposite and going to the more personal, right? Like people in our lives for like, what do they say? Like stages, seasons, and forever, right? Like that can be that same scenario when it comes to business is that,
Mhm.
hey, you might want to think that these people are going to be in your business for 20 years, 30 years, and they just might not be. They might be the college. We have a girl that she is going to school to be a nurse, right?
Yeah.
And so she is able to clean and add these very specific things, but it's still empowering them to also think they're running a business by holding them to those standards.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. The other thing that I think is important, you mentioned early in our conversation about policy,
Yeah.
right? I think it's so important. Sometimes we build teams around us that candidly, they're smarter.
Yeah.
They should be smarter
They
than us,
should be.
right? They should be
Yeah.
smarter than us.
100%.
The thing that I have been burned by, and so I have actually made different choices in my business because of this, but I had someone in my business that candidly knew more about an area like revenue management than I did. And I empowered her to do that job. And I appreciated all the amazing work she did. When she no longer worked for me, though, what I discovered was I had a lack of processes and procedures tied to revenue management because it was all in her mind. She was so
Yeah.
good at it, and I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So I think having good people in your business
Yeah.
is 100% essential.
Yeah.
However, I will say, I learned a huge lesson.
Yeah.
Along with those good people, we have to make sure that if they're smarter than you about something, they're helping you build your policies, your processes, and procedures so that if they ever got hit by a bus,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
could still operate without them.
Yeah, and I
Would
think
you
people get
agree?
scared when they heard the words policies and procedures, right? Like, especially if any of us have been in any slightly corporate world, right? We think 35-page manual for me to click this
Mhm,
button 5 times.
mhm,
And so one of my mentors, they do what's called like the camcorder method. And so
mhm.
all you do is you just record yourself doing it, right? You're doing it already, right? And there's so many technologies out there, right? You've got Loom and recorders or whatever it might be of your
Yep.
screen. And you don't have to like go and create a step by step guide. And that's not something that is required anymore, right? And especially
Yeah.
the way that we're evolving all of our processes anyways, you just record that and you record it 3 different times. So you catch all the different variations. Generally, by the time you get to that third one, you caught most of them. And then
Mhm.
at that point, there's again so many simple things, whether you have an assistant that does it or whether you have a software that does it, you throw those videos in and it will create that guide for you. And at the very bottom, it's here's my definition of done, right? We hear that sometimes in the software world. But like, here's your checklist. When I'm done with this, can I produce a P&L? Can I give
Yeah.
you your weekly cash flow? Like those are those simple things. Because when I first heard of this procedures and policies, I was like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
I am not going to write this 20-page document.
Yeah.
Perfectionism, talk about kicks in hard and those things, right?
Yeah.
It's not a step one, click here, click here, click here. It's here's where you need to go. If you need more detail, go check out this video. But here's the high level things you need to do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need these things as outcomes. And so you're right, because I've had that when I was one of the journeys, detours that I took in real estate was flipping houses. And during that time, like if we did not have those policy and procedures, right? And like, for example, one of the things we didn't follow really well was change orders. That was our policy, right? It should have been following those things. And we got bit hard, right? Because
Mhm.
we always want to think the good of people. And I think almost everybody does things with good intentions, but there's
Mhm.
still consequences to all of those choices.
Yep.
And so when somebody thinks they're making a good decision, they may not know the whole backstory, right? Or when even if that decision is good, it might have been an unplanned good decision.
Yep.
And so having those policies in place make your life so much easier because again, all the way back to the beginning of that, it takes me out of the equation, right? It
Yeah.
says, here's what when the hot tub breaks, we give a guest $50 a night for that hot tub being
Yeah.
broken. That's
Yeah.
our policy. So that way anybody is empowered to say, I am so sorry. We'll coordinate to get this fixed out. But in the meantime, here's
Yeah.
$50 of a refund. We really apologize for this.
Yeah. And the other thing too, even if you are operating solo, you your guest doesn't need
Right.
to know that you're the owner, doesn't
Correct.
need to know that you've written your policy, but you
Exactly.
can refer to the policy. I'm so sorry. Our policy states blah 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 blah. It
Exactly.
can take the emotion out of a
Yes.
situation with a guest as
100%.
well.
100%. And it was just me operating, right? For many, it was just me on sending the messages, right? And that gave me the confidence to also say, because there's so many times too that we will break our own rules, right? We'll say, hey, we don't allow pets at this property, for example, right?
Mhm.
And somebody will
Mhm.
say, oh, but I'm traveling to see my grandfather who's in hospice. And I would really like to bring our dog with us. Or our house flood, those types of pieces. And there's times where we still just have to hold our line because, especially again, if I took me out of the equation and I'm operating this property as a family member, as a friend, as a complete co-host, I'm not going to break their rules, right? They set those rules for me to operate in those guidelines. So if I take that in again into my account of here's those rules, that helps me again separate myself from the business.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, I want to go back to the messy middle because I
Oh,
will tell you, there are so many people in this world that will experience the messy middle, but not be like, I'm going to go create software for this. So tell me a little bit about your impetus. What was the impetus for you taking the bull by the horns to
yeah.
say, listen, I'm not seeing out there what I really feel like I need for my business. So I'm going to go build it.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Yeah. So, kind of the original piece of I had a bunch of friends asking me, say, hey, can you set up my system to be like yours? And I was like, I mean, I can, but, it's a lot of same thing back to your thing, right? Like a lot of it's in my head, right? Like, where is this thing connected? I kind of
Mhm,
remember where that piece was. So I started documenting my process and I was like,
mhm,
oh my gosh,
mhm,
there's a lot happening up there and now on this piece
mhm,
of paper. And one of the things that I realized, one of my biggest passions is I want everybody to have this experience of having that time to say, for example, I was late to a meeting because I want to go to breakfast with my mom, right?
mhm,
Like, I want to be able to have those people make those choices in those moments that bring joy to their lives. They have the time to do it and they don't feel the pressure not to do it.
mhm,
And so more and more I talk to my friends that are other hosts. It was like, okay, where's everything that's out there is great. It integrates with other things, but you still got to go log into that other thing. Right. So it integrates with this cleaning software or it integrates with this lock system, but I still have to go log in and go adjust it and do some things there. Or for
mhm,
example, for me, it would be a guest would text me my texting system. And yes, they would integrate where it would send the reservation to the texting system, but now I don't know what's coming after or before.
mhm,
And so it kept getting more and more and more of those. And then somebody would do an update and it would break one of my systems,
mhm,
right? Or break one of my connections. And also it was really costly. Every system, some of them they include for free with your subscription, which is great, but like every system was adding up and adding up. And so it got to the point where I was doing really well with by myself. And then every once in a while something would break, but I could tweak it. But then it got to the point where I can't help anybody else. Like
Mhm.
that was my crux of like, I need to go create this because I can't help anybody else. Like this works for me, but that's not my goal in life is just elevate myself and make sure that like I'm good and all every other member, I know what I'm doing, you guys don't. Like that's not my
Yeah.
mentality at all. And
Yeah.
so that was like, okay, how do we do this and how do we make this better? And that's where we started with Simply Host is that how do I take all these systems and, I'm reaching out to people saying, what are your pain points with your system setups? What are your pain points with your system setups? And the resounding was that just one of my friends sent me, she has 22 systems.
Yeah.
And it's because not everything integrates, or if it does, it integrates, but it doesn't give them the full picture. And it was like, holy cow, we're all piecemealing out here. Like we're
Yeah.
all need some kind of piecemeal, whether we're running, by solo and we're just running it ourselves, whether we have us and maybe another team member, or even, and the big boys are still I have no idea what they're doing sometimes. Other than I know they're, running, 100 properties. I have no idea what they're piecemealing. But when I'm looking at like the people around me and the people that I connect with and I'm in my space, everybody's piecemealing. And so that's what started kicking it off of how do I help us all not juggle 7 systems and come into one? And how do I help people manage their rentals without their rentals managing them? Because I think
Yeah.
that's what can happen very quickly and spiral out for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about the key components
Yeah.
of the software and what all it does.
Yeah, yeah. So it functions a lot like this typical property management system, right? Like your guest messages come in, you can see them all in one spot. The couple things that are make sure that we also integrated was that like I can lock and unlock a door while I'm in my system, right? So a guest sends a message and says, "Hey, the guest code isn't working. I don't know what's happening." I can while I'm in my existing system, unlock that door for you. Where, for example, right now, I got to go to another system and go unlock that. Or I have
Mhm.
to say, oh, no, is the code wrong? I can see all that from one piece. We have also our guest automations. So, for example, 5 days before the guest checks in, I can be able to send that message. So, again, very similar to a lot of pieces. Some of the other things that we pulled out though is like special indicators. So, if I want to know if somebody's coming for a birthday, I can see a birthday icon on their reservation. So, if somebody says, "Hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z," they at least have a little bit of context rather than reading through the whole piece. As well as we talked about like welcome messages. You can put that right on a reservation. And then we have both the iOS and Android app. So when the cleaners are in and they're looking to say, oh, what do I need to leave out? And leave out a pack and play. What do I need to write on my welcome message? All that is right there for them within that app. And it updates between the two. So for example, if they take a picture and say, hey, this chair is broken, that actually comes back into the system and alerts somebody as well.
Awesome. So you've got an integration with your cleaners. It shows them their cleaning checklist. Does it also
Yep.
do that?
Yep.
Okay.
And
And
it
then,
automatically creates those too. So, like, for example, I can say I'm in Wisconsin and some of my properties, we get snow.
yep, yep.
So we have different checklists depending on times of the year, right? Like some of it is put salt out, shovel, all those pieces. So you can also say right now for this time period, I want to have a summer checklist, and this is my summer turnover, and here is my winter turnover, and it creates all those checklists. You can also require photos, much like in some of the other cleaning softwares. You can say, "Hey, I need you to take a picture that you really did the fridge," right? Or like there's
Mhm.
areas maybe you're concerned about. You can take pictures. You can also upload reference photos to say this is how it
Yep,
should be reset. So it
yep.
brings all of that into one system instead of having it in a separate one.
Awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. I love that. Talk to me. Does it have any components about maintenance? Because that's also something
Yes.
that I know,
Oh, I
goes
know. We
wrong.
changed the air filter. When was the last time the hot tub was clean?
Mhm,
Yeah, so it
mhm.
also has those features as well. So you can track and say, all right, the air filter was cleaned 6 months ago, and it can create a maintenance task about a month beforehand, whatever you set it to say, hey, make sure you add this to your next cleaning, or you have a separate maintenance person depending on your team size. You can say, all right, just add this to the next cleaning task. Or you could say, don't create a separate maintenance task and have your maintenance people be a part of that.
So good.
Yes.
So
And one of
good.
my favorites, which is like, how as one thing with founders is we create these little things that we think everybody's going to use.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're ever going to or not, but like one of my favorites is it's an FAQ file in on that property. So for example, where it's like, where is this? Here it is. Where is this?
Mhm,
Here it is. Do we supply firewood? Yes or no? So that way,
mhm,
when I ever do get to the point where I do want to hand that over, I feel confident that I'm giving those skills and that success to whoever I'm handing it over as well.
mhm. I love that. That's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
Having, all of those nitty-gritty details stored in a singular place,
Yeah.
I think is so important. And candidly, to your point, you know, a typical property management software isn't going
Yeah.
to house information like that.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
one.
even like what's the lockbox code? Where is it located? What is the cleaner access door? Where is
Mhm,
that located? Like
mhm.
all of those pieces, even something as like drove me nuts because I could never get it solved is I need the guests to put out is it so for example, in some of our cities, we don't have garbage and recycling on the same day, right? They're
Mm.
separate days. So I would
Oh,
send a message to my guests and say, "Hey, could you do us a favor and set out the garbage on?" And they would say, "Do you want recycling or both of them? I take one or two." And
right.
so now we have that tracked of saying whether your recycling is on alternate days. So when the system does send out those automated messages, it'll be like, oh no, today's a garbage day versus today's a garbage
Mhm.
and recycling day.
Yeah,
Because some of those properties, it's hard for us to like employ somebody to go out and do that. Just to
yeah,
run out, 25 minutes out in the woods and pull out the
yeah.
garbage. If we can ask the guests, great. If they miss it, not a big deal. But those types of things that were just little nuances that it was tough for me to find on top of just the overall integration. So I have so many little features built into that. We'll see if anybody else likes them. But one of the things is we're really focused on this on us. We're focused
Mhm.
on these smaller operations. We're not the 100 STRs, those types of things, because that was one thing that all my people were 10 and under, and we're really struggling to find that system that is the full system. That it's not I
Mm,
have to go or for example, an integration breaks and a reservation doesn't go to my cleaning software, and now my cleaner doesn't get the message that they have a clean. Um,
right,
then I have to
right.
double check and triple check. Or for example, when the cleaner does complete their clean, it updates the house to be a status of vacant clean. So that way I know, is it really clean or not?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Tell me about, are there any pricing components?
I've been kicking it around. Price Labs does such a great job, though. It's
Mhm.
really tough for me to say, "Hey, we're going to be fully into our system," but we
Yeah,
do. That's probably one of the few integrations that we do have is we integrate into Price Labs so it can update and go out to all of your, Airbnbs, VRBOs.
amazing. Yep.
So we don't have any. We don't have any native
Yes,
pricing.
okay.
They just do such a good job.
Yeah, they do. They're
And I can't even like me as a techie, right? When we talk about pricing and those, you really don't wanna mess that up for somebody, right? And I wanna have a lot of data before I can say, "Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna adjust your house down $20 a night,"
Yeah.
right? And we're not to that point yet to have all that data, and so I'm gonna let the big boys keep that piece for now.
Yep. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I want to circle back to something that you mentioned is you're not a coder. So you went and hired people to help you. I also think that so many women who are in the messy middle continue to believe that they have to figure it out and do everything themselves.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Talk to me about your mindset on, okay, I'm going to develop this software, but I know I don't have the skills.
Yeah,
That could have been a very, very drawn out, messy middle for you
it
trying to
was.
learn how to do everything yourself.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. So I first started of like, I'm just gonna hire a development company because I don't know what I'm doing. That was a very, very messy beginning. And that turned
mhm,
into non-delivery of things. That turned into I'm not necessarily it wasn't like extortion or anything like that or
mhm,
scamming, but like we were paying for things weren't getting delivered. And then I went from all right, fine, instead of hiring a development company, I'm gonna start my own development company. We're gonna hire our own people. Hiring in general, just so we talk about regardless of what space you're in, it is tough.
it is
Um,
tough.
and especially too in the tech industry, AI, holy cow, like that has we'd interview somebody and they couldn't code on their own because they only used AI, right? They don't know how to code. And so it was
Mhm,
all of those pieces of when we talk about the messy middle of saying, all right, well, fine, I'm gonna use AI and I'll code this system. Oh my God, I do not know how to code still, even with Claude. You are a wonderful person. And I say wonderful person in AI world.
yeah,
You are a wonderful person, but you cannot help me not start from the very beginning.
yeah.
Even for the standpoint of it was so hard. Right now, probably for the last like 3 or 4 months, we're in the spot where I can't do anything to help my software, right? Like I can't go fix bugs. I can't like I'm
Mm,
physically incapable. And if I even attempt, I'm probably gonna break something
yeah,
pretty badly. That was one of the hardest spots I've ever been in of where I put myself in a position, in a good position to force myself that I am stuck and I cannot help and I have to delegate and I have to trust my team. There's no other way around this. Oh my golly. Was there a couple of like slide down on the floor and sit for a while? Like,
yeah.
I really need this fixed, but I can't do it. There's nothing I can do. There was some, for the first probably month, it felt very powerless.
Mhm.
I felt very powerless. And then I realized I was actually the opposite. I have empowered my people, and it
Mhm.
also empowered me to go do even the things that I'm actually really good at.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of trying to do the things that I don't know anything about, I already have people on my team that are way smarter in that. So I don't need to expound upon that. I think one thing that we were raised with was to improve your weakness, right? Find your weaknesses and
Mhm.
improve them. It's the exact opposite. It's find
Yep.
your strengths and expound upon those and find people, software, whatever I mean, to support your weaknesses
Amen,
instead of that.
girl. Amen. That gives me goosebumps. Amen. So
Yeah.
I actually had a coach tell me that years and years ago.
Yeah.
You exploit your strengths and
Yeah.
hide your weaknesses. And when she told me that, I was probably 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have no idea what
Yeah.
my strengths are. Right.
Oh, that right. We think we're
No
we do not as women do a good job to say, "I'm really good at this," right?
idea.
Like, giving ourselves credit or taking compliments or those pieces is really, really hard, and where I had to start was I had to go to the people that knew me the best and say, "I am so blinded by, like, any things that I'm good at. What do you think I'm good at?" And they looked at me like I was wild, like, "Are you kidding me? You don't know you're good at this and this and this
Yeah.
and this?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"No!" Like,
Yeah.
I just think it's easy for me, so it must be easy for everybody else. And
Yeah.
then not the case. And so you're right. Like, holy cow, like when that was told to me, I did the same thing. I was like, what am I good at? Like, I
Yeah.
have, when you hear passion or you hear like your purpose, right? I'm thinking, well, when is that lightning bolt and that thunderstorm down at Stacey's going to strike
Right.
me and tell me, like, this is my moment.
Right.
This is my clarity. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen. 90% of times we don't get these life changing moments. It's
And
this
it's
grow into it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I have found that first of all, I have to have quiet. If I'm looking for
Oh,
clarity, I have to have quiet.
oh yeah.
I have to be able to open my ears and proactively invite that clarity in, number
Yeah.
1. And to your point, it's not like a lightning bolt or someone with a megaphone saying, you should do blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
It is something for me, it shows up very subtly. It's like
Yeah.
a whisper. Oftentimes, if I'm stewing on something, I'll wake up early in the morning or in the middle of the night with, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, right?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, if you don't quiet yourself and you don't invite that clarity in, you're continuing the momentum of the unclear. I don't know what to do next. I'm in this
100%.
cloudy spot and I don't know how to get out of it.
And our world is so busy and our world is so noisy, especially
Mhm.
like the more and more we get in this, right? You have your phones dinging at you. We talked about this way beginning, right? Like, I got to make sure everything's turned off. I got to make sure all these pieces, our attention is constantly like just being pinged in. I have ADHD. So also I was like, hopefully Stacey will tell me if I'm talking too fast.
No, you're awesome.
I was trying to do some woosahing, right? Remember you do some woosah, trying to calm down beforehand. But you're right. Like, and it's not only just like, oh, and I totally hear you on like opening your ears. It's also opening my heart to also
Yeah.
know that like the super frustrating part about any of this journey is that all the answers are inside of us. And
Mhm.
that is so frustrating because I want to call up somebody and say, tell me what to do. Look in here and tell me what it says.
Mhm.
Because it is so much harder to stop, pause, do those deep breaths, but meditation, all those things. Those are what get us the answer.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
not this is not me like, woo, woo, my horn. I've read so many books. I know you did a lot of hours of training courses, mentors. I've done all those things. But if you just all you do is just take in information and you don't actually look from the inside out, yeah, that's where you're never going to find out what is
Girl.
this decision, what is this point to make.
Yes. The other thing that I have found incredibly helpful is journaling.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
there are things, I don't know about you, but there are things that I write down in my journal.
Then mine's over on the table too.
So I write in this every morning. Now I
Yeah.
wrote this as a workbook. It's a hybrid journal and planner, but there are things that come onto the paper
Oh,
that I
yeah.
didn't even know were in my head.
Right? Like I
Did
was
you
like, where
have you ever
did that
experienced
come from?
where did that come from?
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, is
Oh.
it clarifying, it's cathartic,
Mhm.
it helps bring peace of mind,
Yes.
it helps with anxiety, right?
Yes.
At least
Yes.
for me, have you found the
100%.
same? Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing for me that works really well is walking in the woods, walking in nature, just completely like I I always have to have, right? Everybody knows me as I have my little 3x5 note cards. I fold them in half, throw a pen on it, throw my pocket, right? Because
Yeah.
when I'm out in the woods, I don't want technology. I don't want my phone on me. I want to be out in the
Mhm.
woods. And you're right, like I mean, just weird things that hit. Like it's something like, for example, I was like, I should create a bingo card that like is a life bingo card because we got snow one day and I was like, that wasn't on my bingo card, right? Like and that because we're in April, we should be done with this by now. But those
Yeah.
types of things that like just strike you and you're like, where did that come from? Or
Yeah.
and at the same time, it's those wild things, and it's also the things about yourself that you were
Yeah.
like, whoa, I have been doing this all this time because all I just want is my mom to say, hey,
Mhm.
like, I see you, you're doing these things.
Mhm.
Or I want her to not have anxiety about what's going on in
Mm.
my life.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
don't realize you've been doing these things, or I'm doing this because I was trying to fit in. I really don't like doing that. What the heck am I
Mhm.
doing? And
Yeah.
you don't want to take that quiet time, whatever, to your point, right? Whether it's sitting, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditating, whether it's walking in the woods. If you don't take that time, that is actually where you'll get stunted because once you have that, your world opens up.
Oh, yeah.
Opportunities open up, your money mindset, all those things. Whether you're a religious, whether you're spiritual, whatever, there is this connection to us, to everybody and everything in
Mhm.
some shape or form. And when we're closed off because we're like, I know the answers, or this is how it's always been done, we lose all of that opportunity and we lose
Yeah.
that connection to each other, to the world, to whatever you believe in. And without that, that's where you actually get stunted in like because people think, oh, I need to just go learn all these things, dollars, dollars, dollars. It's actually
Mhm.
you internally that helps get those dollars. And if
Yeah.
you don't have that clarity, you're just going to constantly be bopping around and you're not going to find that thing that you can really focus on and go get and rock
Yeah.
because you didn't take that time to hear yourself.
Amen. Amen. I saw a stat one time about walking and
Mm.
about, don't quote me on the specific statistic, but it's like 60% of creativity will come to you when you're walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean, you
why,
hear about it all the time.
yeah, Steve Jobs used to have walking meetings.
Yep.
Mark Zuckerberg, walk
Einstein.
Einstein, yeah.
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 And it's this because you're engaging you, right? You're moving
Mhm.
your body. You're
Mhm.
also in a very different space of like sitting down, working in front of a computer, right? Like you are
Yeah.
changing your environment. Also, generally, when you're walking, you're either reducing the noise around you too, right? Because you're not in that busy world. Your movement and you're just that much more connected to you.
Yeah.
And I agree because I mean, all of the brilliant ideas. I think almost every, again, don't quote me on this either, too, right? But like I think we can look back and see almost all of these ingenious moments or these ingenious inventions or whatever all came from a quiet space. It wasn't, oh, I was in a lab working, 27 hours that day and I came up with this thing, 27, that doesn't make any sense, 17 hours. And that's what made me came up with it. Like those are not the moments. It's the quiet, the
Yeah.
creative moments that really bring that out. And also what you mentioned of like Steve Jobs and them having collaborative moments still too,
Mhm.
like we can also get lost in our heads very quickly, right? Like I can be walking in the woods for an hour and like be thinking about something that I never actually got to because I needed to bounce it off of somebody. I
Yeah.
needed to hear me speak it out
Yeah.
loud. So there's still those collaborative moments that still need to happen.
Yeah.
And it's also bringing the right people into your circle throughout all of this because I have personally really struggled. My messy middle right now is struggling of getting the right people around me
Mhm.
because when you jump into this world and we really are entrepreneurs, I think again, when we go back to business, STR people, when we first come into this, we don't think we're business owners. We don't think we're entrepreneurs. We think we're just side hustling. But once you start breaking into that world, and especially if you use that to actually be successful, replace income, whatever that might be, you start realizing maybe your friends are not coming along that journey with you.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that is really hard, especially if some of your friends have been in your life for, 15, 20 years and they're like, so when are you going to be done with this thing on the side, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
why would you leave that really good job?
Yep.
All of those things. And so when we talk about when we talk about being quiet and then also collaborative, like you want to be really careful about who you bring into that space. And some of it you're gonna have a really hard time with because family that are not gonna understand it. And you can't just be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, peace out. Not going to talk to you anymore because I'm building businesses,
Right.
right? You have to then be careful. You just have to choose what you're going to share and what you're going to ask questions and feedback on.
Yeah.
Because it's like asking the financial advice from a broke person, right? Like you
Right.
got to be careful who you're talking to.
Exactly. And the other thing too, when it comes to the world of short-term rentals, having a network, at least for me, and I'm passionate about this, but having
Yeah.
a network of other women around us
Yeah.
who have experienced different things
Yes.
that are in all different stages of their businesses. I will tell
Yeah.
you, I have mastermind programs, I have mentorships. I learn as much from the folks that I have the opportunity to support in their
Yeah.
journeys as they learn from me. Right.
100%.
And so
100%.
I wholeheartedly believe that if we can, as individuals, surround ourselves with other people to help us level up, number
Yeah.
one, and then regardless of where you are, even if you're just starting out, look for opportunities to pay it forward to help
Yes.
someone else
Yes.
too,
Yes.
because it's a holistic approach and
Yep.
it feeds your soul, it feeds your business.
Yeah, and that's what I always say, right? It lights my soul on fire when I can help others.
Mhm.
And even it's something of like, for example, like you said, like somebody starting out brand new, right? It could be something of like, hey, by the way, I found this new product that cleans really well. That little
Mhm.
share could help a ton of people, right? Especially when it comes to cleaning products and all those
Yes.
items. Or for
Yes.
example, one of the things I always tell people that are coming in the SDR world said, please, please always start with a welcome basket. And it has nothing to do with like ROIs, those pieces, you can do that too, but what that does is gives your guests instantly, they'll give you more grace on anything past that, right?
Mm.
They instantly feel that like, oh, this host cares. They're not just, one of the big ones out there running a business. They don't care. They're not going to respond to our messages. You instantly, regardless of what has happened or transpired before and after, you get so much more grace by saying, hey, I care about you. You probably came in, you have no waters, you probably got a snack, you might have came in at midnight, or you're coming in for a funeral and you guys haven't eaten in a day and a half because that's just what happens.
Right.
So those small little things that will cost, $5 or something much, depending on where you go to supply all your stuff, those types of things, it is amazing how that sets the tone for that entire visit. And you have a lot of people who are like, well, I don't want to spend that money, or what is my return on investment? Sometimes it's those types of things. And everybody that we've talked to, it's kind of we talked about too, like the policies that was given to me from somebody else. Like, set a policy. Like all of
Mhm.
these things that I have learned, I have been built on the shoulders of great women, right?
Mhm.
Like nobody is doing this alone, even though it feels very Lonelyville and island sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nobody has built. I didn't build my software on my own, even if it was just me and I could have coded it and done it all myself. All of these masterminds, all these beautiful women, all of these smart, ambitious people that I've been around have gotten me where I am today. I
Yeah.
carry a little bit of them everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And how do I then share everything that they've given me to make sure that I can just lift? Because it's not a hand out, it's a hand up, right? It's
Yeah.
always this, I want to lift everybody up with me because we can do so money is such a loaded thing, but we can do so much good. It is our job to get more money to help lift more people up. Like that is what it's supposed to be.
Yes. 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 I can sit here and talk about this stuff with you for days.
I know.
Oh,
I
and
know. I know.
okay. I want to go to the lightning round.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you know what the lightning round is. So I'm going to ask you some questions and
Yes.
I want you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind.
Ooh,
Okay.
okay. And
All
you're
right.
having lightning right now. So this is even better.
And you know what? I think it's sunny now. That's
Okay.
how crazy our weather is in Ohio. Okay. So, first question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Ooh, that would be Minocqua, Wisconsin. Way out in the woods. Love it
Okay.
out
Now,
there.
that is a very random answer.
Yeah.
I
I'm
am,
like, oh, they have a meat-orama? I mean, come on. What? Wild. I've never experienced it before, but it's close enough to all my friends and family. They can also join me.
oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Okay. What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
Oh, Alaska. Desperately want to go.
Mm. I just actually was doing a podcast interview. I was on their podcast. I was recording it yesterday, and she was taking off to Alaska. And this was like her fourth Alaskan cruise.
Oh,
I've never done an Alaskan cruise.
Yeah.
If you go to Alaska, do you want to do a cruise or do you want to do like the whole land tour?
So there's this train. I'm a train. I love trains. I think because it's
Hmm.
forces me to be slow, right? I love trains. I'm riding in them. I think so. There's a couple of trains that actually go across Alaska and also just Canada in general. I think one is called the Canadian Mountaineer. It's like my big bucket list item. But I've also heard the Alaskan cruises. So I've been on a cruise. It doesn't do a whole lot for me because I can wrap. If I can walk around it in a day, I'm kind of done.
There you go.
I need space, but Alaskan cruises specifically, I would love to go on one of them because you see so much more of the wildlife and you see the landscape from a very different point of view. And it's not like, hey, let's go down to the casino and gamble, from my
Right,
understanding.
right,
So it's a
right.
very different cruise than like most cruise ships. So I actually want to do both. I want to do the land and sea.
There you go. Okay, cool. All right. Next question is, what's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in the world of short-term rentals?
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Ah!